You've done this already with AI. You've introduced a bill on the federal level, but it's based on some of the success that the state has had. Doing what? Explain how it's worked in Ohio and what you want to do federally.
Well, when I was lieutenant governor, I ran something called the Common Sense Initiative. And even before ChatGPT was out there, we used an AI tool to go through the Ohio regulatory code, identify 5 million words of 17 million words in the code that could be eliminated. We've eliminated almost 1/3 of the code, saved time, money, meaning things like you don't have to appear in person anymore. You don't have to do things via paper. We synchronize the building code to make that a lot easier. So we're just really doing regulatory reform because the compliance costs are outrageous of what it takes businesses to move forward. For example, every time you have to hire an attorney or a compliance officer, that's a construction worker or an engineer you can't hire. We want to save time and money. We want to get the economy going. We used an AI tool as our friend to get it done. And understand, for those who are worried about AI, does AI run the world? No. AI identifies it. We take it back to the agencies and they greenlight it and we move on. So
you would actually use this in conjunction with DOGE and what they're trying to do. This could be a tool for DOGE to try to identify redundancies?
I think it very much complements what DOGE is doing. DOGE is looking for expenditures. We're going to be looking for regulations. And right now, the Federal Registry, if it was a book, it would be 35 feet tall. It would take you over 3 years to read it. No person can make sense of it. And an AI tool could do this in minutes. And help you really identify the things that have been outdated, things that could be modernized, and we could take that back to the agencies, very complementary, and really trying to permanentize and put checks and balances in the process that DOGE is sort of already undertaking.
Well, we've had a lot of evidence that once a regulation is put on it, it really never comes off. I'm just wondering how you would use AI to find, it just seems like you'd have to program it a certain way because, one side of the aisle loves certain regulations, the other side doesn't want any of those regulations. So I'm not going to say it's GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, but you'd have to tell the AI program what the parameters were for what to get rid of, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. You could be very strategic about what you want. For example, you could say, what processes require a person to show up in person to comply? What things are paper processes? What things haven't been updated in 20 years, 30 years? And just identify all of those issues, go back, revisit them, and see if they're really necessary. It doesn't mean that every one of them would go away, but right now, that process does not happen on a regular basis inside the federal government. The AI tool you could do this simply. Understand, in Ohio, we did it with an AI tool and one person. All of that happened just using a really small staff and an AI tool. AI is going to get better. It will help be more strategic about how we can accomplish this. But Joe, the compliance costs of the federal government are just outrageous these days. I want you to think about just things that the Biden administration alone did. It hasn't done rural broadband. It didn't do charging stations. The CHIPS compliance CHIPS bill is not getting CHIPS factories built very quickly, all because of regulations. And that's happening across our economy. We can create so many efficiencies if we just make this focus on it.
So if we were going to do exactly what you're talking about, how many people would you hire to do it? I know you talked about one person in the state of Ohio. From a technical perspective, there's what's called a context window. You can't put in too much stuff into OpenAI or ChatGPT or any of these large language models just yet because it can't understand all of it at one time. So you have to sort of do it almost, I don't want to say page by page, but 10 or 20 pages at a time. You talked about 180, what did you say, 180,000 pages or 180 million pages? You'd need a small army to pull this off.
Actually, we use a tool called Reg Explorer that's an AI that's completely focused on the regulatory section of the code. Was in Ohio. AI tools, as you know, will get smarter as we go along. We don't have to eat the elephant. We can take it a bite at a time and begin this process of helping the federal government rationalize how it governs, regulates America. Because right now it's nobody's job to do this. Nobody's doing it. Nobody's revisiting these issues, eliminating outdated forms of communication, compliance.
Isn't that what DOGE is doing, though?
This is the process for starting. DOGE is really focused on a lot on appropriations and spending, but DOGE is just a one-time endeavor. It's not been, and there are a lot of people who complain about the fact that there's no checks and balances. This would create the checks and balances that would allow us to make sure that people support the outcome of this. But you have to be intentional about it. This code has grown to the enormous size that it has over years because it was nobody's job to go back in and clean it up. And after nearly 250 years of America's existence, it's a cluttered mess, and it needs to be rationalized.
Ohio, obviously, it'd be nice to bring a lot of jobs home. I don't think of Ohio quite the same way as maybe Michigan or some of the other hollowed-out states that globalization really decimated. But I guess Ohio's there as well. Are you 100% behind what the president is doing in terms of tariffs?
Look, the president is going to announce, on April the 2nd, what that plan is. I think a lot of people are anticipating it. The president and his team have been listening to businesses and lawmakers along the way, and I believe that those lessons will be incorporated into the tariff proposal that he comes up with here in a couple days.
So you think that the tariff proposal will be beneficial to your constituents?
I'm optimistic that it will be because, look, this is Joe, you talk about Cincinnati. I was down in Cincinnati with a manufacturer the other day who was saying to me, look, I love the idea that we're going to hold countries accountable who are not complying with the same OSHA regulations, wage regulations, EPA regulations, and that we're going to level the playing field. And they felt that the tariffs could help them do that in terms of manufacturing and people who are trying to undermine them by going around the same kind of regulatory standards that we have here in America. I think that there are a lot of also some questions that people have, and hopefully those will be answered on Tuesday. But I think that we can all agree that we need to know what the rules of the road are, and that once that happens, if there are any questions that people need to have addressed, then they'll be able to have an open door with the Trump administration to accomplish that.
Senator, one of the other big issues that's been put on the table is the potential that actually taxes on the wealthiest will go up. Is that something that you would ultimately support, in part to pay for some of the other efforts by the administration, for example, to remove taxes on tips and the like?
Look, we have to try to restore fiscal sanity, so there's going to have to be a balance between revenue enhancements and tax cuts. And I think that everything like that should be on the table because the base of the Republican Party are working class Americans. Right. Working class Americans
you would raise
the ones
taxes
that
on
benefit
some.
Most of this.
Just to be
I wouldn't
clear,
raise taxes on anyone, but I would.
But that's what we're talking about, raising
sure
taxes on people.
No, well, not necessarily. It depends on what taxes you renew and what taxes you allow to go back to the previous law. But right now,
right. But if you go from 37% to 39.6%, I'm not suggesting you shouldn't. By the way, but I'm saying if you do,
we can argue semantics. We can argue semantics. I'll tell you where I am on the issue is that I'm for more of the benefits going to working class people. That's the base of the Republican Party. I want this to work for the Republican Party.
So you'd be prepared to raise taxes on some Americans.
Working class people are the ones that have to benefit from.
Right. I understand why, but we're having an honest conversation. If you're prepared to benefit the working class Americans, which should be benefited, you're also saying to pay for that, just so we're on the same page, they'd be prepared to raise taxes on some other Americans that are wealthier.
I mean, in some circumstances, if you're talking about the wealthiest Americans, I think the answer to that is that they are, and I am willing to allow for some of those taxes to go up so that we can benefit working class Americans. Yes.